Hello, welcome to the Big Venus Energy Show with Sharda and Lo, and we're rhyming today.
Happy podcast
Yes,
day,
happy
love.
podcast day. We're ready to go.
We're
And
ready
glow.
to go
And
and
flow.
glow and flow.
Yes.
Okay, are we doing rhyming day?
If you would like to.
Okay,
It just feels right.
totally. Happy birthday to our beautiful little
Spawn,
Venus.
yes. Big, and it's a day of Jupiter, which is a day ruled over Sagittarius, which is what she is. She was also born on a Thursday.
And she's got the number 11.
Yes, she is.
I'm November born. I'm a big,
Yes.
the number 11, 16, 7. These are big numbers for me.
Okay. I like 9, 11, and 13.
9 2 has a thing for me.
9 is big for me.
13, huh?
Yes.
I've never been I don't have anything against it, but 13 is like not something.
I like it because people don't like it. I
What?
like it because it's like the black cat of
Totally.
numbers. But it also is supposed to be like feminine, and also
I'm gonna
the
turn
thing
a
that
little
makes
to
everything
face you.
right.
A little.
But anyways, we'll get into that. So how's life?
Life is good.
Sharda had a birthday last week. For last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So we went to Hari. Had planned this. Hari is my husband. Hari had planned this. Let's be, nothing excessively grand, but at the same time, like, be very childish about it.
Yes.
So he had planned with, my sister lives close by, so our family and their family, pin stack.
Oh, love that. Okay.
Loved it. Like, it was like a 16-year-old
Yes.
sort of thing, going and having fun with your friends and family.
Bowling, arcade, laser
Totally.
tag.
We didn't do bowling,
Okay.
but we did everything else.
Okay.
And at Pinstack, because it was also birthday,
Right.
you gave yourself permission to do onion rings and
Pizza.
other, yes, all unhealthy shit, okay? So they have a shake called the Celebration Sparkle Shake. Holy shit.
I love that. Sounds fluffy.
It's a red velvet shake.
Oh.
With a ginormous red velvet cake on top. They can do a better job in
Decadent.
terms of quality of defrosting the cake, because I
Okay.
think it was still a little too
frozen.
little. Other than that, it was insane. Like 3 people shared the shake and we couldn't finish it.
I believe it. It sounds decadent.
It was so decadent. We couldn't finish the cake, we couldn't finish the shake, and it was so fun.
I love that.
It was really good laughing and playing, and my sister has 2 young kids.
Okay.
So, you got adults and kids at the same level. The 3-year-old, like my 6-year-old niece who wrote that note that you just saw, me, my husband, my son who's 13, my brother-in-law, and my 6-year-old niece. Just us, 5 of
just
us.
playing.
Bumping cars,
I love
bumper
it.
cars.
Yes.
Nobody else in that bumper cars. It was so fun to see the 6-year-old and the 44-year-old acting exactly the same.
It's important.
It's good to let go
Yes.
sometimes. I'm teaching Pilates today for about 3 hours.
Wonderful. Starting what time?
3 o'clock.
Okay.
Kaylin needed a little break.
Cute.
So I'm like, I'm happy to help today. I
Yeah.
have time, so happy to help.
That's nice.
Yeah, I'm meeting a friend for lunch whose dog is close to the end of life.
Okay.
Had a cardiac event a couple of days ago.
So a little bit of bereavement care.
Correct.
Okay.
And they had to, release the fluid from the lungs and the heart area. She's obviously still not there, so I'm having lunch with her today. So
Support.
yeah,
Community.
for sure.
That's sad.
Once you have had someone, in your family for so long, she's obviously not broken it to the kids yet. And that's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
So.
That's like when you really start to come to terms with death as a child, and then also realizing that it's a family member. So before Ari was conceived, I lost my pit bull in like a tragic accident.
Oh, that's horrible.
It was terrible. It happened in like 48 hours. He was 4 years old. He had a really bad injury. He wasn't really going to be able to recover from it. We were going to have like a very expensive surgery. So I made the tough decision to put him down.
Mm-hmm.
Ari knows about my dog. She knows like pictures of him. She'll even still talk about him sometimes, which is funny because she never met him. That's how big of a part of my life and my family.
100%. And continues to be part of your memory, and you're not blocking it off to make what we think would be uncomfortable
Right.
for a child. I mean,
Because it's your
you have to
family.
teach.
Yeah.
We can make things comfortable or uncomfortable. We have the power to do it.
Absolutely.
And kids actually learn much sooner than we think about the element of death. How much we don't, as human beings, talk about it enough.
In the
We
Western
really don't.
world, we kind of
No,
push it
even in
everywhere.
even in India, it's not. They talk about it in terms of, oh, there is a life beyond and whatnot, but to actually have a conversation about what would you like your last days to be? Let's talk about your end of life care. What would you like? How? I mean, I think people take these kind of like have conversations about, I don't want pain. I want to be. You and I have had
Yes.
conversations. I mean, I literally have recruited my friends and my husband, like, I don't want to suffer. Between 70 and 75, I'm out, kind of thing, right? We have to talk about things. We don't.
No, we don't like to.
We
It's uncomfortable.
really, really don't.
And we also want it, and I think this is the like weird part, is as humans, we're more inclined to want to let you suffer because we don't want to feel responsible in some way or guilty, you know, or carry it. We have a hard time letting go. So we will cling to something until it's painful or detrimental or just devolves before we will actually let it go in a way that's healthy.
100%. I think it comes from, I believe it comes from lack of tools or lack of examples to lead and see from, because I don't want to say it comes from guilt,
Okay.
right? Guilt is a very individualistic thing.
Okay.
Yes, can there be generational guilt? Can there be systemic guilt put in place? 100%. But the reason I feel certain tough conversations don't happen is because we have laid a pattern to not have them. And we have assigned negative connotation to it. Right? Again, in Hindu culture, we do talk about reincarnation. In the Christian culture, we talk about heaven and hell, like
And afterlife.
right. So there is an element of what you do, karma, whether you are using that word in the Christianity or not, doesn't matter. What you do affects what will happen to you post life. But we don't talk about what it feels like to live those last few years or year suffering, that individual suffering, right? There is a lot of, I feel there is this expectation of older as we get older. I took care of you all your life. You can't take care of me. Wipe my ass. I'm like, 100% fair expectation, but do you really want to suffer? Why don't we talk about what you're feeling, what you're going through? What does it feel like to be that vulnerable? And this entitlement versus fear versus how do you want? I am a big believer of having my say.
Okay.
I don't want someone else to control my last days.
I think that's really curious because I see it in a couple of different ways. So there is a certain beauty to the fact that when we come into this world as infants, we can do nothing for ourselves. We rely on the people around us to take care of us. And then when you start to talk about the deterioration of like natural death cycle, it kind of returns to that, where you, instead of gain new abilities, you begin to lose them. And that surrender, right? Where you kind of fall back into the same window of life as you were in birth. So the opening is almost the same as the closing in reverse. And it's that surrender. And I read a really impactful book. I talk about it. I just feel like I'm a broken record when I talk about The Wisdom of Insecurity by Alan Watts. And it talks about the fact that we as a society, and even in religion, use this things are, if I do good things are going to happen.
Karma.
Or I need this like security in my head where I create the like, I'm going to set myself up for success because this is in the future.
Yes.
And then
it's
not
like
being
almost
able
like
to
a
cope.
token system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not being able to cope with when that doesn't happen. Not being able to, like, you have to promise yourself something good in order to keep going, right? It's almost like to make the drudgery of every day bearable. We tell ourselves a story. But there's a certain wisdom in not needing that. There's a certain innateness of like, I can do these things, but I'm not so emotionally attached to the outcome that I won't be able to function if something were to happen outside of that.
You're right. I think it's both the psyche handicap, not just the physical handicap, right? And I think that's exactly why we should have these conversations, because as you grow older, whether it is dementia, Alzheimer's, cancer, Parkinson's, liver disease, diabetes, doesn't matter. Whatever it is that is going to come to deteriorate your physical being, significantly affects your mental being.
Absolutely.
And often I find the lack of conversation to find out what I would like those last days to be, last years to be. Without that information, people are making assumptions. And they're making assumptions based on what would be the reflection of, say, you in taking care of me, far more than what is it that I need or want. Yes, I can't make that call. Like you said, you come back on that cycle, you become more like childlike, you're unable to take care of yourself. But fortunately, you could have had that conversation prior.
Right.
Unlike a child who hasn't yet gotten the faculties to have wisdom, knowledge, experience, we at the end of our lives tend to have a bucket load of it, right? And I think the conversation is lacking because I would rather have explicit discussions about what works for me and what doesn't work for me.
Right.
And also hear from whether it is my son, whether it is my husband, whether it is my friends, what that would feel like for them.
Right.
When we don't have that, it's based on so many assumptions that I don't know. I find it. I am the kind of person who wants to talk things out.
Right.
I do not want to live in assumptions. I've done that most of my life.
Right.
And it has not served me well. It has not served me well thinking there was an incident, whether it is a friend or family, several of these incidents happen. Somebody might ask you for help on a certain day. Okay. That is not that you are unable to help. Okay. If they don't ask for help, if it comes across as an entitlement, can you go do this? Right? It has, in my opinion, put the pressure over the decades of me, because they are asking for it and they are family or friend, I feel obligated to have to do it. Whether I feel, one, they need it, or two, whether I want to do it. Right? Watching a kid, doesn't matter, whatever it is. Right? Cooking for somebody, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're super sick, I'm the kind of person who's like, let me come drop off soup or rasam or kind of thing, okay? But I'm not a fan of anyone saying, you don't have anything going on, can you just do this for me? I'm like, that's you diminishing my fucking life.
I struggle with this at home.
Yeah.
And it's in the way you phrase things and the way you ask me to do things for you. Because if it becomes an expectation, I start to grow a little bit of resentment, because there are times I want to go do things for myself. If I'm constantly pouring out for someone else and doing things that are against my spirit, it's kind of, you start to betray yourself for people. And that's like huge. It's something that I had to recover from and heal from, because I did it for so long that it became nature to betray myself. So now in my household, I get asked these really silly kind of loaded questions. Where it's like, do you want to do this thing for me? Whoa. And so then the answer will be, because like I'm up here not doing a thing, indulging in the rest and leisure, because I'm not doing anything right now. So I'll just be sitting here. I'd be like, hey, do you want to go move that box for me? And then you're like, will I do it is a different question. Will I do it for you? Yes. Do you need me to do it? Yes, I will do that for you. Do I want to do it? Not particularly. No, I'd actually rather stay here. That's complex.
I think tone and words indicate very much where your mindset comes from, because if it lacks humility and it comes with entitlement, because they've been enabled to such behavior, it is a problem. And we continue to teach this generation after generation, cycle after cycle, right? Simple examples. I'm being very reductive in this. Okay, I'm not choosing serious examples, and we all have serious elements, but I am choosing a very, very simple example, right? Even as trivial as, can you go get me water?
Oh yes, we've talked about this, yes.
Right? If somebody's walking, asking for water when they come back is one thing. But say my kid has also had a long day at school. We forget that the kids are out there for 8 hours, both mentally, psychologically, and socially and physically exhausted when they come back. Okay? And I'm all for kids doing chores. It's important, okay? But understand, the kids' buckets are much different than our buckets, and their understanding of what is important very different than what we think is important. So now I'm going to give you a very concrete example. Okay, I grew up as the eldest daughter in the household with my parents. 7 years difference between my sister, younger sister, and me. But I also grew up with my cousin in our home because he came from a difficult family background. So my cousin, who was 4 years older than me, he lived with us when he was doing his last few years of school. Okay. Yet, not that he wasn't asked to help out either. 100% he was. But I'm going to only focus on the memory that worked in programming me. Okay. There were times when my mom and dad both were working. Okay. And they would say, can you make coffee, or can you make milk and the drip coffee, so that when we come home we can have coffee, right? I remember asking for something like that. I don't think is a problem, right? Of course, somebody's tired, you can ask for help, blah blah blah. I remember examples of just using that, the expectation to the point where it had evolved, right? You knew we were coming home. Why didn't you make the coffee? Why didn't you have the milk ready? Why didn't you have the decoction ready? When, say, milk is not there, why didn't you go make sure you bought milk or you made brand new? Whatever those things are. Now you're building on the expectation. Constantly building on the expectation. And I have, with my now therapy and, counseling and whatnot,
evolution,
I have found these small seeds that were put in place with expectations that were constantly built on expectations. It is the same day, a work day, that I went to school. I had a whole day of school, right? I walk back, whether I have homework or not, I have things going on. I'm a child, right? yet responsible for everything in my bag, right? I remember being reprimanded for a pencil being broken, a rubber being broken, like things like that, right? And then you have an expectation that is constantly built on, did you bring your sister home safely? Did you open the door, close the door, like feed her, feed yourself,
Right.
like things like that. Then you add on these. And I'm like, I can see how hyper vigilant and people pleasing and expectations that, oh, they feel tired, so they need taken care of, despite the fact that I have put no thought about what my need was.
And sometimes it's hard to even think about what you need or what you want.
Because you've been told your need doesn't come first.
Yeah, let's expand on that. Do you, because of your upbringing, because I know that I struggle with this, do you sometimes struggle with identifying what desires you have?
100%. Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Because if you have, I have noticed, I now, especially in my last 2-3 years, and you and I became friends in the last 2-3 years, I've been working a lot on myself. And one of the things I have realized significantly is that your desires that you have, your likes and wants, it needs to lead to something others would identify as valuable or good. Like being super busy at work, being super important at work, being correct, having, I worked crazy when we have Hari, my husband, on this, or whether we talk about it when he's here or not, doesn't matter. He will tell you, I felt I needed to be constantly productive. Constantly productive. Taking a rest felt antithesis.
Yes.
At all, right? I mean, there are so many memes out there and shots out there that show when a woman is sick, she still is vacuuming and cleaning and dishwasher and blah, blah, blah. And, jokes aside, I would take calls, work calls at 9-10 p.m. Easily. I have practiced, or not just practiced, I've been imbibed in me. I'm a night owl because during the day I did things, so I needed to stay up at night. Only then can I focus on getting my stuff done. So I used to write papers at night. I used to study for exams at night. I used to still create board decks and vision stuff for the work at night. I'm like, oh, everybody sleep. Now I have a moment for myself.
When it's quiet and you can't serve anyone else but your own agenda.
Correct.
And it's...
So during the day I can't, right?
Yeah, you can focus on it.
I can if I had practiced it.
Right.
I had not practiced it because something else always took precedence. Whether it was chores, whether it was whatever it was,
right,
took precedence, right? I am really enjoying right now practicing saying no.
It's beautiful. We were talking about this a little bit at work last night, where women struggle with finding space to stand in their no, to feel comfortable saying no. What have you found most recently that you've said no to, that you're proud for, that you noticed was just like an easy way of just being like, no, I'm not doing that?
First and foremost, men and women. I think it's how you're raised, how you program,
right,
men and women, right? One of the I teach Pilates. There was a day when somebody needed a sub.
Okay.
And they just put it on Slack. And I'm like, I don't want to disrupt my day.
Okay.
I didn't offer up myself to sub.
Right.
these are the kind of small things I've started saying no to, because the expectation, and it even with family. My sister and family lives close by. Going out, like watching a movie, sometimes I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm not interested in it. But I think the we were at Disney cruise. I think I told you it was beautiful and exhausting at the exact same time. And we had a second stop at Disney's Coco Bay, one of their islands. Okay, everybody was leaving together in the morning to walk out after we had, anchored there. And I said, "You all go ahead. I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna get food on my schedule. I will come and meet you in the island, maybe an hour and a half later. I don't know." So I said, I was feeling quite uncomfortable first, because you're out with not just your husband and your kid, but also with, other family, and everybody's going together. And I'm like, my kid is old enough. He's 13.
Right.
My husband, if you guys don't understand, you don't understand. I cannot make anyone feel guilty. You are my family. You married to me. You need to understand. None of them pushed back. My husband didn't push back. He's like, take your time. You want a slow morning? I'm like, I want a slow morning.
Right.
I don't want to be rushed. Same thing I did when because the previous day I had put my son, my husband, cousins, everybody prioritized, because I was doing makeup for them for Halloween. So I did mine the last. So I didn't join in for some photos, and I was totally fine with it. I didn't make them feel guilty. You didn't wait for me, blah, blah, blah. And I felt the same thing, like I therefore can take my time on other things.
Right.
So I said no. I got pushed back initially. No, just join us. It's okay. You don't need to shower in the morning. I'm like, no, I'm going to take my time. You go chill.
Right.
And I had the best time. I took my time doing it. I walked by myself. I explored by myself to get even there.
Right.
And apparently there were photographers placed, because Disney had those.
Right.
And I took, because I walked and I didn't take a tram, and I didn't know they took a tram.
Oh, okay.
They're like, you got photos with these things? I'm like, yes, I did. So that is a concrete example.
I love that.
On saying no.
Yeah. And like also investing in your self-care, right? Like bolstering yourself, making yourself available to be your best version of yourself, where you're not harried because you've rushed, because you didn't do what fulfilled you, like showering, like getting yourself ready, like taking your time. Because when you start to do that, you kind of steal from yourself. When you're not enriching yourself, you're kind of stealing from the reserves, right? And then you get to the end and you're like, oh, I thought I had more left over. Or you're snappy. 100%. I get to that point. I notice about myself, because I need sleep. I am a person who needs rest.
Yes.
Okay? And I will make it work. But when I reach the very end, I am snappy. I am
cranky.
Done. I'm just done. Please don't. Can you help? And as soon as we're somewhere where you don't need my help, I am out of here. I am pillow bound. Don't talk to me again. Leave me alone.
Yes.
Take care of yourself.
And I think that is it's very hard to do if the programming and conditioning in our heads tell us that is selfish.
Or that rest is not productive.
100%. It is, because it was modeled that way.
Right.
Our mums, our aunts, our grandmoms always looked like they were putting the kids, the family, the cleaning up, the cooking, the laundry first. Right? I no longer will rush myself to get out of the door because everybody else has gotten ready and getting out. I'm like, I'm an adult. I know where we need to get to. I'm okay going late if I need to. I would like to look like how I would like to look.
Good.
When
Feel good.
mind too, right? I don't want to feel like you know better and I have to fit into somebody else's. It is constant. Yes, as children, this is the biggest thing. We have to be aware when you start having children, if you don't work on yourself to reparent yourself, you're gonna push down bad habits and bad programming and conditioning. So when you expect a child to have the same level of urgency on things you as an adult find important, it becomes a ginormous problem. A child coming home from school or a weekend, doesn't matter, and wants to either read or paint or play video games, and yet you say, no, that is not as important. Come hang out with your family because everybody is going to brunch or everybody is going to a movie. Offer it. We no longer force our 13-year-old at all, right? We offer, hey, we're going to do it. Would you like to come?
Right.
And often, because he's now hung out with me and my husband throughout his entire life, often, who else is coming? If his cousins come, my kid will be much more inclined to join than if it is with mom and dad. Not, I mean, if you go to the movies and it's a great movie, he's not coming. Right? But if me and her just want to get out and it's a weekend and last Saturday, we literally, I don't know, we just like, let's get out. It's nice weather, Christmas decorations are out there. Let's just get out. Let's just go somewhere. I don't know where we went. I don't know whether we went to Grandscape or whether we went to Legacy. I don't know where we went. We just, like, let's just get out.
Right, go somewhere.
Yeah. My son is like, nope, I want to just game with my friends. And I'm like, oh, there's some food in the fridge. There's frozen shit if you want. There is protein shakes. Do whatever you want. You're hungry, you're hungry. Take care of yourself. What I'm no longer doing is, you need to eat. You need to eat this. You need to eat that. Is everything taken care of? Did you have... Like, I'm no longer... It is hard.
I can imagine.
It is so hard.
I'm still in that place of like trying to find a balance where I'm like, hey, have you eaten? Do you know what time it is?
And it's so funny. Your kid is a couple of years younger. Okay?
Yes.
But it's so funny. We should talk about this, right? We no longer live, at least us, okay? We are talking about a few of us. There are so many, 8 billion people, okay? So we are privileged few.
And just speaking about from our experiences.
Correct. We are very privileged. We don't have the sense of scarcity.
Yes.
Okay? We don't have the scarcity of, is there going to be food?
Right.
Will we even have any food? We will need some food. We don't live in that.
Right.
We live in the world of, I have enough money in my bank account to be able to comfortably go get groceries and make food. The scarcity of food is not part of our equation.
Right.
So our kids grow up with our parents telling them to eat versus them ever feeling the pangs of hunger.
It's true. It's true.
The first year of their life, when they're hungry, they don't know to communicate of sorts, first 6 months max, right? They cry. We are hyper vigilant. Every 4 hours, every 3 hours, every 2 hours, we should feed them. Snack, here, cracker, almonds, blueberries, strawberries. Constant. We look for, oh, the person is going to get cranky versus teach the kid, ask for food, understand how to read hunger. So there is no scarcity. We have emotional eating. Why? I'm an emotional. Bad habits that I'm working through right now. Emotional eater. Eating feeds into dopamine. It's like the easiest. when you there is a beautiful book called Dopamine Nation. You should read it. Okay, I have it if you would like.
I would like it.
Okay, lovely book. Okay, so dopamine is you getting a high of something, right? Eating something yummy gives you a high of, oh my god, I get to have ice cream, kind of thing. I had ice cream last night, so I had a dopamine hit. Sonic strawberry shake. Oh my god, so good. But these strawberries get stuck in the straw.
It's a problem.
It's so irritating. Yeah. I'm like, can you give me a bigger straw?
Or puree it better.
Right. Yeah. Or just give me a bigger straw. Sorry. Deviation.
Boba straws.
Right. I need to have some boba straws at home. Okay. We are deviating from the topic, but that's normal for us, no?
Side quests. All right, back to it.
So eating has been the easiest way to get what we want because we didn't know scarcity of food.
Right.
So when we couldn't control anything else, when moms told us to do chores or when dad was unhappy with your grades, it doesn't matter. Food became a vice that was giving you pleasure. But you can take it to a point where food can give you pain. So I used to push constantly because the more you're getting pleasure from something, you have to keep doing more of it often to get even a little bit of pleasure because the first time is the one you're going to get the highest dopamine. After that, it's very hard to keep reaching that level. So you're going to overdo it significantly. So if your first hit is here from here, the next hit is only this much. So if you need more, you're going to constantly, and it keeps dipping, right? So you're going to keep doing more of it to get you here. So what happens to your body when you keep eating? It gets into pain. Your liver is overdoing it. Your stomach is overdoing it. My intestines are overdoing it. I used to be in gut pain pretty much every single day of my life. And that was me torturing myself. And I used to therefore say, my stomach is hurting, I'm going to lie down. I had to torture myself to get time for myself, kind of thing. I started noticing this shit. It was so unhealthy.
That's really profound. Yeah.
I stopped drinking. This year has been a very, very transformative year for me, right? I stopped drinking this year, right? And it is, I am making the choice not to punish my psyche through my body. I'm not punishing my body. I'm punishing my psyche. I'm punishing my soul. My soul is struggling, right? So this year has been, I do not drink. I still enjoy my gummy.
Yes. And I don't feel like we need to view some of these things as like negative or like a vice, if you will. Because I do think that at certain points we can view herbs, just like we do with, herbs and spices in our cooking, as things that add to our life that are medicine. Our food is medicine. So you taking a gummy is a medicine. It soothes your nervous system, but it also can be indulgent in a way that is still healthy. Right?
As long as I'm knowing my limits,
right,
and I'm able to talk about it, and I understand why I do what I do.
You're not expressing it in an unhealthy way.
Correct.
Right.
It makes all the difference.
Right. It's all about your relationship to something.
Tell me a little bit about if you have any examples of vices that you used to make it detrimental to you at some point.
Food was a big one for me. So the way I described my disordered eating was compulsive eating. And because I could never get full. I would always eat. And then I think exercise. So there was a time where I was constantly moving. Can't stop moving. Wouldn't stop moving. And as soon as I would stop moving, I would crash. Because I would just wear myself out. And that was a way of avoiding my feelings.
Correct. Because you wanted to push your body to its own crash because you felt guilty about taking a break for your mind and body.
Right.
And so you forced it off the path.
Right.
I know it. I feel it.
Yes. And so that's it. It's like and it's almost a control issue too. And you're punishing yourself with that level of control. Because I could stop, but I'm not.
And because we constantly feel others are looking at us and we have to explain. And this is a great way to excuse taking time for. I hear you.
Yes.
Big time.
And so that's been something for me. The other thing that I've noticed is that there are times when I will overindulge in certain things. And I know it's to my detriment. And be like, you know what? I do deserve rest, but I rest too much. Right? Be like, I don't know, when am I going to get this opportunity again? And then overdo it. So I will take rest to excess. I will take, sometimes with the chocolate. We'll overindulge in chocolate. I will, and that might be it. I also really like...
knowing you. Staying in relationships to keep them happy because you don't want to hurt their feelings.
Yes.
Because we often, especially, and I'm not saying this because I want to create a divide between men and women.
Right.
Okay. But I have seen this more in women, and maybe I'm just more attuned because I'm a woman.
Right.
And I'm a girl. But I've noticed the tendency to over-explain ourselves because we feel we have to justify what we are doing. So if you understood, if I can explain it enough for you to understand,
and justify it,
then you can tolerate what I'm doing.
It's,
huge problem.
It is a huge problem. And then also like feeling responsible for other people's choices and reactions to that. And so, there are times when you realize you can't trust someone to handle your news in a way that you don't have to deal with the consequences of. So I think there was a big part of my life and upbringing that if I had a no to express, I couldn't trust the people I was saying no to hold that no and respect it in a way that
They didn't make it about themselves. They always made it about themselves.
But it was like a punishment that came afterwards.
Yes.
Right? So that was what I learned, and that was something that I've had to unlearn. Right? To reparent myself. That it's not my responsibility to assuage someone else's feelings or reactions. It's not my responsibility, because what you've also got to understand about people pleasing is that it is a form of manipulation. 100%. And so when you start to view it through that lens, where you're actually still trying to control an outcome of someone else's behavior, perception, reactions, that's so unhealthy. You have to learn how to detach from that. Because what that person does and how they react to it and their feelings about it have nothing to do with you. Right? And I think that's a beautiful release. I think that's something that takes a lot of time to learn and a lot of time to kind of balance. And it starts to really teach you about your relationships to people and how to choose those relationships and navigate them. Because it's something that we learn, thankfully, in this generation, where we get to kind of separate from our families. Where previously, that didn't really happen. Family meant everything. You couldn't come, blood is thicker than water. You owe it to your family. You have to be...
But it started with because family got you.
Yeah.
They understood you. Even when they didn't understand you, they always had your back.
Okay.
Right? That's where the element of community and family, that's why I think even more nowadays, you hear the sentiment of family need not be blood.
Okay, right. Chosen families.
But family meant that you can be yourself and they will get you and they will have your back no matter what. That changed.
It did.
And the point you were making, which is heartbreaking, is when you constantly feel you have to be responsible for their emotional regulation.
Yes.
Making them angry was your fault. Making them sad was your fault. Don't make me angry. You know that makes me angry. Holy shit. Now I have to focus on making a situation. If I made you angry, I'm going to bear the consequences that are physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, soul-wise crushing and abusive, which a child would never know. Right?
Yes.
If you hear a parent ever tell a kid, you made me angry, you know better. What the fuck? And we've heard this. I heard it from my parents. I bet I said those words to my kid before this whole growth and revelation shit that I've been working on for the last 3-4 years. And I'm horrified.
Oh,
I
yeah.
am so horrified that I ever did it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know your triggers and you're telling your kid to know the triggers, and they don't even know fucking their own triggers, which means they will not be open to their own glimmers and triggers.
Right.
They will be hyper vigilant on yours.
Right. Instead of knowing their own voices. I think that's important. Also, you brought up a really interesting memory for me when we're talking about this.
Okay.
So a few years ago, there was an article that came out about this woman who had experienced aphasia, which is like the paralyzation of muscles in your throat. So it makes you unable to like chew, swallow, speak. And that happens in various different disorders. But she talked about how she was charming and spoke a lot and was a writer. And there was a lot of similarities in the way that her personality was portrayed in my own. And then it goes on to start to say all of these red flags, if you will, of what bulbar onset ALS looks like. And so bulbar onset, B-U-L-B-A-R, onset ALS, is where it's not necessarily triggering your systems in your body, which is ALS. The bulbar onset is in the brain. It's in the mind. So it's in different parts of the mind. It's not quite like dementia. But there's these different flags of like bodily symptoms that are indicative
Of what's going on.
because
in
there's
your
no
brain.
test for ALS.
Yeah.
There's no test. There's no definitive thing that you can say, yes, you have it, no, you don't. It's after once you have a conglomerate of connected symptoms or...
And often it is the negative of many other tests that exist.
Right.
That you lead to the culmination of, oh, we can't eliminate others, so therefore...
Right.
It is this.
And so it was really scary for me to notice that there were these very interesting kind of anomalies that I had experienced. I was like, I thought it was just something strange about my body or about my neurons, because you can tell when it's an electrical issue. Okay. So I have a few electrical issue things that I've noticed, and I didn't know. I kind of chalked it up to, I've had a couple of significant head traumas from car accidents. From also being hooked off of horse. Yeah, so I hit a windshield when I was 11, and the whole left side of my face was scraped off, and it slit my throat and had 15 stitches. And I thought I was gonna be like disfigured my whole life, but I'm not.
She's gorgeous.
But no plastic surgery. I have scar tissue.
You are gorgeous regardless.
I appreciate it. But
you are also conventionally gorgeous.
Yes, absolutely.
Those who have had accidents on their faces, you're gorgeous inside and out.
Right.
But, dude, 11?
Yes.
That is
People
traumatic.
thought I died. I had glass come out of my face for 3 years. And you can still, like, I can still feel the different scar tissue. I can see sometimes in my smile where there's like a side that pulls over more than the other.
Scary shit.
It's interesting. And so when my eyeliner doesn't match, I just chalk it up to the fact that like my face is asymmetrical on purpose. But
I can't chalk it up. I just know I fucked up using my right hand on my left eye more than my hand.
I give myself an out.
I need to find an out like this now.
Okay, it's fine.
No, not like this. I need just to find an out.
But I have certain things that I just chalked up to like, maybe it's nerve damage, okay? But to read this and to see and identify things was scary. Because honestly, I could go to a neurologist and they still would be like, we'll have to see in 20 years.
Yes.
If this continues to devolve, right? So my mother's a nurse. And I remember being scared. I remember considering it. Like, who else are you going to talk to other than the other person in your family that's a part of the healthcare system who sees these degenerative types of diseases, right? And so I brought it up to her. Hey, I saw this thing. This was a couple of years ago, a few years ago. I was in Seattle. And she got so upset with me and was like yelling at me. Why would you tell me this? Why would you upset me by expressing, like, why would you ever say this to me? Okay? And it made me so sad and angry.
And hurt.
Yes, like, I guess I won't tell you that I'm afraid for my life.
Yeah.
Or that I'm nervous.
She diminished. And she projected it into you as your fault.
I don't need this right now. You know what? Everything I have on my plate. How could you possibly make my life worse by telling me that you're scared of something?
Yes.
And I remember feeling so small in that moment and feeling like a child.
Yes.
And I remember when I started my period, I didn't tell my mother for 4 days.
Yeah, because you didn't feel safe enough to be able to share.
Why would I go make her life harder?
Yes.
By telling her that this happened.
Yes.
And so it was just all over again. I know that hurt her when I
Why aren't you easy?
That. Yeah.
You have to be easy.
Why do you have problems?
Yes. If you guys haven't, I don't know whether you have seen the show called Shrinking.
No.
If you want to do a watch party here, it's on Apple TV Plus.
Okay, I love that.
Second season is about to end.
Okay.
The best TV show.
Really?
Ever. Okay. There was a show on the top of my list always, and it will stay in now second spot because this has dethroned that TV show. And my favorite TV show until this is West Wing.
You've said this, yes.
Okay. It is brilliant. Aspirational show. Okay. But Shrinking.
Okay.
It is therapists who are going through grief themselves.
Okay.
And parenting and friendships. And it is
and being human.
Brilliant.
Okay,
when I tell you it is brilliant, you're talking about this thing of projecting and feeling scared and not to tell. So there is this character and there's an arc there of Sean, guy who comes back from fighting overseas, 22, right? And the dynamic of his dynamic with his dad, which is messed up, which messes him up more and more and more, right? And these therapists help not by therapizing that person, the dad, more talking about themselves as dads.
Okay.
Right? Brilliant show. Like, outrageously good.
I'm really excited to see it. Yeah.
You will love it. Harrison Ford, what an incredible comedic actor. I think hanging out with Harrison Ford in real life would feel like lots of this character. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Writing is brilliant. Everything is brilliant. Forgiveness. They talk about forgiveness and how hard it is.
Yes.
Easy to say I forgive you than actually be able to forgive.
That's a huge thing because you don't actually get to control how quickly you can forgive someone. Like, you can say, I understand why you did what you did. I can forgive you and see that you're not that person or that it was maybe the intention, but the impact of something sometimes and the feelings that come with that impact, you have no control over, like, when you feel triggered or angry or hurt by something in the future. And then, like, having to deal with, well, I forgave this person, so I'm not angry at them, but I still have anger about what happened.
Absolutely.
It's a very complex way that forgiveness is like that.
Very complex. especially when things that are very traumatic that
Yes.
happens, often the person who has participated in it can't forgive themselves.
Right.
They are so guilt-ridden that they feel they deserve that level of isolation and pain. Or even they deserve somebody else yelling at them. Or they deserve getting hit. We have to help each other. If you are struggling in that degree to not be able to forgive yourself, and you are in self-hatred and self-loathing, it helps a teeny tiny bit to get external forgiveness.
Right.
Because that guilt will eat you up.
It does. And
Life
shame.
can be, and often for many, is hell. You should watch. It is like, I want to do, if you're down for it, we watch an episode and we talk about the episode.
Okay, that would be fun.
Like literal a podcast for recapping and talking about every episode. And
when do the episodes drop?
The last episode of the second season is dropping in about 4 days.
Okay.
We can start anytime we want,
okay.
Right? We look at our schedules and
okay.
whatnot, but I think it would be very interesting to have a conversation about topics that they're talking.
Yes, I think so.
I don't have anyone else I want to do it with except you. I mean, it's
so excited.
But this is, wow, what a episode today.
It's been fun. I mean, I feel like what we're talking about here in the end, and when we're talking about the forgiveness aspect, is something that Drew and I really practice with each other. Because, you know, repairing our relationship is really important for Ari to see.
Yes.
And also for each other, because we are family. We deeply care about each other and love each other. And so our past has it's been so colored by projection from past conditioning.
Yes.
From our wounds as children, and then having children, and then projecting and clashing those things against each other. And then realizing that now that we get to be adults because we grew and hurt each other in the process of learning that forgiveness, and also making space for the anger and hurt and grief and sadness that comes after the forgiveness.
It is.
So it's holding a lot of space for that.
I love it for you guys.
I love you. Thank you for this. Thank you all for being here. You know, we are getting a lot more comments. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have not.
Yes.
We need to start posting some
of
of these snippets in Instagram and in TikTok.
Yes. We have to create more shorts again.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We're getting better at it.
It'll get there.
We
want to be fluid about it. We don't want... I think one of the things that when we first started, the enthusiasm of let's put it out there, blah, blah, blah. And coming down to... I'm like... This takes a lot of bravery, and I enjoy talking to you, and I enjoy being able to communicate the thoughts. Words that come out of our mouth is like 1% of actual thoughts, and the thoughts are 1% of feelings, and feelings are built over years, like, you know, layers of sedimental ground. Like it takes years to build those things. So I love the fact that we are not rushing to be seen. We are not rushing to be heard. We are doing this because it is therapeutic.
Yes, and organic.
And organic.
And not forced.
No.
Just enjoy. We make it with joy and with love. And again, I'm really excited about how we're growing. So until next time, we'll see where we grow from here.
Mwah. Oh my God, we've been